Welcome to episode 14 of Action Along the Gridiron. I know it's been a while since I posted the video, but finally back, and here we are. So let's get right to it. Bills get a huge win against the Cowboys, 31-10 at home, and Cowboys yet again prove that they can't win a game on the road. Dominant team at home, but can they finally get a win on the road in the next coming games? Because this is the point of the year where teams make the playoffs. And it's like, what do you do when you make the playoffs? Well, they have to focus on, with the next 3 games, get a win and on the road. Because you have to be prepared for the playoffs. You didn't get the first slot. That's 49ers as they clinched the playoffs first. They clinched the division this week. They're number 1. You got to focus on getting a win on the road because it goes between the Cowboys and the 49ers. The 49ers will win at home. Right now, like they did and proved months ago against the Cowboys at home on, I think it was Sunday Night Football. Like, you got to prove that you can win a game on the road, and they really haven't done that all year. So something to focus on that, something to focus with that on them in the next couple of weeks. Ravens clinched the playoffs, like I said. A couple of teams clinched the playoffs this week. First team in the AFC, and that's huge for them, getting the Sunday Night Football win against the Jags in Jacksonville. Now they're first team to make it, and so good for them. There's really not a point of the ball where they're making mistakes on right now. I would say that everything they've got covered, and their offensive line looks really, really strong. So, that's very important. I think that's something that doesn't get looked at as much. You have to have a strong offensive line if you want to go anywhere in this game, and they definitely do, giving Jackson time to drop back and look around and then run if he needs. So good for them. Giants winning streak and really playoff hopes die with 24-6 loss against the Saints. And on the other side of the ball, the Saints keep their playoff hopes very much alive with winning those games that they really have to win. Unlike the Giants and the Jets this year, the Jets are officially eliminated from the playoffs. So is Washington and basically the Giants. I mean, they're officially not. They're not officially eliminated, but they need a lot of stuff to happen if they want to stay in. And I don't think they're the team anymore. They could do that with a huge loss. And to go down that easily, they just laid down and died. So, I mean, that's a very, very bad loss if you're a Giants fan. But they've had so many others this year, like the Bills and the Jets. They shouldn't have lost those games. And really, this was really what we saw coming the whole year. So their season's basically over. And Washington was also officially eliminated. So some teams are out now. Some teams are officially in. So it'll be very interesting what teams do in the next 3 weeks to either prepare for the draft and next year or prepare for the playoffs and try to go all the way. And really, this happens sometimes. This happens every year sometimes. The Jags, the Colts, and the Texans right now have very similar records. You'll see it right there. And it's a huge hunt to win the division because if they don't win the division, these teams will not make the playoffs. The Eagles have clinched the playoffs. The Cowboys have clinched the playoffs. The 49ers have clinched the playoffs. So there's not that many spots left, and I don't think all 3 of them are going to make it. A team is going to get screwed, or 2 teams are going to get screwed. Whoever wins the division is going to prove that they're a strong asset because they all verse division opponents, obviously, the last week of the season. And they've all proven that they can win the division. It'll be very interesting to see who actually does win the division. They all played each other very early in the year, but a team or 2 are going to get screwed by this. And it'll be very interesting, like I said, to see which team does, which team has the motivation, or they all have motivation, who has the drive and to take control of the game. The Texans just won in overtime against the Titans, but barely. You don't have CJ Stroud anymore, or at least this week they didn't. They'll have to try and get him back as soon as possible. But if you don't have your starting job, that doesn't really matter, is what the Colts have proved this year with Gardner Minshew having their playoff hopes alive with no Anthony Richardson. So it's very interesting to see how that AFC South division pans out. The NFC North is just terrible. Teams are going to make it with maybe a under 500 record this year. I mean, very uncompetitive the last couple of years since Brady has retired, or really even when Brady was on the Bucs, it was really not competitive either. I mean, the Titans had a couple good years where they controlled the division, but I mean, it's been a while. I mean, the Titans aren't in that division, so forget that. But other than even when Brady ran the Bucs, I mean, it was not a close division, and now it for sure isn't. The Titans are not in that division; they're in the AFC South. That's the NFC South. My bad. Joe Flacco's 2-0 with the Browns. They 2017 win over the Bears. Bears should have won that. They were up 17-7 in the fourth quarter with 12 minutes left, and gave up yet another lead. That's the fourth big lead, 2-possession or more game that they've given up, and that's really that's why they're 5-9, and that's why other teams are 5-9. And I mean, disappointing years for some really competitive years for others, and that's just football. But they should have won that. And the drop in the end zone on the Hail Mary attempt at the end by Darnell Mooney, as I'll try to put that up right there. I mean, if you pause it, he had it in his lap. He had the ball, and he just dropped it. I mean, that's hard because, you can't always make the perfect play, and he's probably beating himself up about it too, but you got to catch that ball. I mean, it fell right in your lap, and you dropped it. So, really just represents the Bears' season this year. And that's time for my rankings. I think my rankings going into Week 16 are at number 1, the 49ers, at number 2, the Ravens, because they've clinched and they're both the number 1s at the AFC and the NFC. Then I got the Eagles at number 3, and this is where some controversy might be up for grabs, but I honestly think the Bills at 4, the Chiefs at 5, and an honorable mention would obviously be the Cowboys, that they've been a very strong team this year, but you got to win without being on the road. The Chiefs, even though they ended their skit this week with a 27-17 win over the Pats, the Patriots are the worst team in the league. You got to win like the Dolphins and the Broncos earlier this year. You got to really pound that team, and they didn't. And they look like a very frustrated sideline, I'm not going to lie, and they really got to fix what's ever going on right now, because Patrick Mahomes just looks frustrated at his teammates, at the refs, as always, and the refs are never going to be right as an athlete. You're going to get mad at them all the time, but that's not why you lose, and you can't just blow up. It just shows that you're not a leader, and that just really represents the Chiefs right now. I do think they're a better team than the Cowboys, however, because if they have a home game, and the Cowboys and the Dolphins are 6 and 7, and in my rankings, and it's because they can't win on the road. They cannot win a road game. They're a very interesting team, and it's frustrating to watch if you're a Dolphins fan or a Cowboys fan, because they are frustrating to watch. If you don't have Tyreek Hill, you lose the game to a Titans team that's now eliminated. What I'm trying to get out of this is that they're very frustrating teams, and if the Cowboys go on the road, you might just not even watch the game because they're not going to win. And very shaky teams at 5, 6, and 7 with the Chiefs, the Cowboys, and the Dolphins. But you got your front runners, you got your lock-ins with the 49ers, the Ravens, and the Eagles. Although the Eagles don't have Jalen Hurts this week out due to sickness, they'll probably be fine. He'll probably be next week, and he'll be there for Week 16 as Week 15 finishes up tonight on Monday Night Football, the 18th, with the Eagles and the Seahawks. But it's been a long time since I did a video on YouTube. But I'm finally back, with all the tests, but without the excuses of school and sports. I'm finally back. And that's it for episode 14. Thanks for all the support, all the followers, 120 something followers on Instagram and counting. Thanks for all the support as always. And as always.